The Giants made a move. They trade for a former first-round pick. We'll tell you who it is and what it means for the lineup on this episode of Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, y'all, and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, thanks to people like you. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show on Sacktown Sports 1140, as well as emceeing Sacramento Rivercast games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we are talking about the Giants, who made a trade for Daniel Susac, former first-round pick of the then Oakland Athletics. We're talking about Casey Schmitt and how the front office feels very confident he could be the second baseman of the future for the Giants. And last but not least, the news broke on the show yesterday. The Giants jump up 11 spots to get the 4th pick in the 2026 MLB Draft. So today we have for you what that mock draft looks like. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. All right, so again, it's not the trade with all the fireworks or the signing with all the fireworks. And I'll keep refreshing my social media, by the way, because you never know what could happen while I'm recording. It's not the move that I think everybody was ready to jump up and down for, but it is a move that helps a need that we believe the Giants have had, and that is the backup catcher position. The Giants, the Rule 5 draft is going on right now, and the Giants decide to take a swing, no pun intended, on former first-round pick Daniel Susac. He was on the A's. The Twins picked him up and then subsequently traded him to the San Francisco Giants. So I have the write-up for you right here from Alex Pavlovich. Giants trade for former Athletics first-rounder Daniel Susac in Rule 5 draft. Earlier this summer, former catcher Andrew Susac of the Giants came out to a game at Oracle Park and caught up with the man he backed up for a couple seasons. When Susac returns to San Francisco next season, it'll be for a much different reason. The Giants on Wednesday traded for Daniel Susac, the younger brother of Andrew, who was Buster Posey's backup in 2014 and 2015. Daniel Susac, 24 years old, is a former first-round pick who was left unprotected by the A's ahead of the Rule 5 draft. He was taken 4th overall by the Minnesota Twins and then sent to the Giants, who had tried to acquire him from the A's earlier this offseason. As a Rule 5 pick, Susac must stay on the roster the entire season, or else he must be placed on waivers and then offered back to the original team. That designation, plus the fact that the Giants gave up minor league catcher Miguel Caraballo and cash considerations for him, makes him the early front runner to be Patrick Bailey's backup on opening day. This is from Zack Minasian. I think he's a candidate. He said, obviously, he's going to have to come in and earn it, but obviously to take him shows what we think of him, and we definitely see him as a really strong candidate. We're excited about where our catching depth is with him. Other than Bailey, the only other catcher on the 40-man roster heading into the winter meetings was Jesus Rodriguez, who was acquired from the New York Yankees at the deadline. The Giants love Rodriguez's bat and his development defensively, but he has limited experience behind the plate. In Susac and Rodriguez, they now have 2 young right-handed hitters to compete for that job this spring and down the line. They might still bring in a veteran too, but that is not anywhere close to the front office wish list as they continue to search through the free agent market and trade market. Roseville native Susac was taken 19th overall by the A's in 2022. The Giants scouted him in high school and again at University of Arizona, and Minasian said they see someone who is a plus defender behind the plate and has power. Susac historically has hit lefties well, which is needed as Bailey's backup. All right, so some of the numbers for Susac. He spent all of last season in AAA with the A's and hit 18 homers with an 832 OPS in a hitter-friendly environment, struck out 109 times and 360 at-bats, but A's general manager David Forst said he made some strides defensively. Okay, so That is the write-up on Daniel Susac. That is from, of course, Alex Pavlovich. Jeff Young had this to say of around the foghorn. Quality defender with a strong arm, had modest raw power and the potential for more game power if he puts the ball in the air more. Needs to improve on swing decisions, a bit too aggressive at the plate. Contact skills are passable. So he had that to say. And then you have Matthew Nauer, Daniel Susac in Triple A. He slashed 275, 349, 483 with a 26.8 K rate and 8.6% walk rate. 83% zone contact, which is good for the 55th percentile, 37% chase rate, good for the 4th percentile. What excites Matthew, 908 X slugging, 51% on fly balls. There's more power to be unlocked if he elevates the ball more consistently. So this is what everybody has to say about Daniel Susac. Of course, you know, we're still waiting for the big move. And that reminds me, I got to refresh again. Don't worry, I'll continue to do it. This is something that we talked about just as far as Patrick Bailey needing someone to push him a little bit. And I don't know that Daniel Susac will push him. I do think it's ironic when you see these Rule 5 drafts situations happen. You start looking at it from the other side, right? You look at the fact that the Giants didn't lose Marco Luciano in the draft per se, but they've recently moved on from Marco Luciano. This is the age of one man's trash is another man's treasure, and the Giants are going to take a chance on Daniel Susac, who 19th overall pick. You know, he was a first rounder. The A's basically have said, we can't get there with you. Maybe you can get there with somebody else. The Giants are willing to give up a different minor league catcher for him to the Twins. So there is a level of, you know, teams seeing something there. The A's decided not to protect him. And I believe I read he was the only position player taken or something like that. So yeah, obviously the Giants have some familiarity with the Susac family and they like what he could bring to the table. So good for him. Here's a chance for a former first rounder to get back on the right track at 24 years old and make a name for himself as at least a backup and go from there. I don't think it says a lot about Jesus Rodriguez. We knew that he was still developing as a catcher, and they're going to duke it out a little bit. You know, you have somebody who is more catcher focused or defensive oriented. And then you have Jesus Rodriguez, who's more hitter oriented. So I think it's a good mix for the Giants. And especially with what's going on with the ABS, they can make some decisions in 2026 and see how it all shakes out for them. So that is the newest news when it comes to the Giants. I know you're all hoping and waiting for something else, but that's what broke not too long ago. And hey, it's something, right? Maybe this is the appetizer to the eventual main course that we'll get throughout the rest of the week, or maybe by the end of this show. Speaking of, on the other side, we discuss Casey Schmitt. You have Zack Minasian and Buster Posey giving their vote of confidence in Casey Schmitt to be the second baseman for next season. But is it for the long-term future? Let's hear what they had to say. Don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of all the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. I have to tell y'all about my favorite jeans, my Doers. Seriously, they've changed my life. Right now, I'm wearing the Performance Denim Slim Straight and cannot get over how comfortable these jeans are. I've been reaching for my Doers for everything, running errands, grabbing dinner with friends, even heading to the ballpark because they look great and feel even better. Here's the thing. Doer jeans have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, so you can actually move in them. They're also antibacterial, which means they stay fresh longer wear more, wash less. And they're made with Cool Max technology that helps to regulate body temperature and wick moisture, so you stay cool and comfortable as the day changes. Honestly, they feel as stretchy as my favorite joggers, but look like I'm dressed to go out on the town. Duer is all about combining classic jeanswear style with athletic level comfort and performance. The best of both worlds. They actually pioneered the original performance denim, blending technical innovation with everyday clothing that looks sharp and feels incredible. Simply put, Duer makes the world's most comfortable pants without sacrificing style. Once you try them, they'll be your go-to pair. Trust me. And if you're in San Francisco, check out Duer's store at 567 Hayes Street. Pick up a pair for yourself or grab one as an amazing holiday gift. Mention my promo code LOCKEDONSF in store to get 15% off your first order, or shop online at shopduer.com/LockedOnSF for that same 15% off. That's shopduer.com/LockedOnSF. Your new favorite jeans are waiting. Okay, now we are going to talk about Buster Posey. I don't want to necessarily say giving the nod to Casey Schmitt to start at second base. I'm sure they're going to make calls on others, but it seems like that's the direction that they're going in. This is what Buster Posey had to say. Quote, "We really feel good about the strides that Casey made last year. And I think Cost 2 had some big moments for us. And for me, is a guy that just kind of is an all-around baseball player and can impact the game in multiple ways," Posey said. "We're very optimistic with both of those guys having a solid year under their belt, and we know that there's room for growth. I'll just leave it at that." This is what Minasian said. "We don't think he'll be slowed down during spring training at all. He should be fine," Minasian said on Tuesday's Giants Talk podcast, talking about the wrist surgery, the left wrist surgery that Casey Schmitt had to have. Goes back into the quote, "I thought Casey made a lot of positive strides last year, at bat quality, learning a new position. There's still some upside there, and I'm excited to see what he can do going forward." So to me, it sounds like we are on the Elliot Ramos, dare I say, maybe not even the Elliot Ramos plan, might be more of the Tyler Fitzgerald plan. And what do I mean by that? A situation where he's going to get a nod at the beginning of the season, but then after that, depending on how he performs, anything can happen. It could be Christian Koss. It could be Tyler Fitzgerald getting another swing at it, getting another hack at it. It could be any of these options that comes up within the next season, but he's going to get the nod to start, unless, of course, they go out and get a second baseman. I know Brandon Lau, there's been a lot of talk with him on the Rays and other names. I know we've mentioned Ketel Marte. I just don't see the Diamondbacks doing that. So other names that have been floated around, and would the Giants be interested in one of those big names, or are they going to sit here and just focus on that position and just seeing if they can develop a second baseman in Casey Schmitt? You know, I think it's another situation. And again, I'm not putting too much stock as we're talking about a trade that the Giants made for a former first rounder, and the Giants losing out on some of their top prospects and starting to move on from their top prospects. I'm not trying to say that the Giants shouldn't make some of these moves because of who's coming down the pipeline. But I look here, a lot of people are excited about Josué Gonzalez. He's only 18. He's due in 2030. Gavin Keelan, who we spoke about, Tennessee guy, he's due in 2028. You know, we're going into the 2026 season. Johnny Level due in 2029. So all these guys are not going to ball out, right? I've said it before, but you do have some opportunities here. Maui Ahuno, who I think he's got connections to Tennessee as well. Maui is already 23 years old, and he's due in 2027. So some of these guys are right around the corner, and you do at some point, this is what happens and why the Giants are having to spend all this money now, because they didn't develop these guys and they didn't get to figure anybody out. So is Casey Schmitt and Christian Koss a good enough combination to, you know, get you to that next side and hopefully develop one of these young players into something? Maybe. I hope so. I think I'd rather do that. I mean, outside of Ketel Marte, I think I'd rather do that than go get somebody else, and then the timing's off, and then you have another 4-year contract or 5-year contract. And unless it's somebody who just, you know, just destroying the baseball each and every night and is one of the best second basemen in the game, yeah, I don't know. And that would be the question, right? the conversation of Bo Bichette. Would the Giants be in on Bo Bichette where they're going to pay that money and make him a second baseman? I think it's 6-7 years, some type of projection like that. I don't think they will do that, but if they were to do that, okay. But some of these guys that are kind of in between and, 3-4 years, let's just see what Casey Schmitt can do. You can't pay for something at every position. You can't pay big money at every position. Let's see between Casey Schmitt. I just talked about Tyler Fitzgerald. What was that, last week, 2 weeks ago? Tyler Fitzgerald, Christian Koss, right? Some of these guys that the Giants have, see if someone can figure it out for a couple years while these top prospects find their way, and hopefully they strike lightning in a bottle with one of them. So I don't really have a problem with this approach. I've always said there's no reality where the Giants are going to go, and this just doesn't happen outside of the Dodgers. You're not going to pay for a second baseman big money. You're not going to pay for a right fielder big money because these contracts are so long. Now, if you go get Harrison Bader and then go get Bo Bichette, okay, I think that makes more sense. But you're not going to go get Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette, or even Cody Bellinger and Bo Bichette. You're just not going to do that. So I'm not necessarily against the Giants making a decision and getting one of them. I just don't think realistically they're going to get both. So, and if I were to answer where I have a problem with more so, or where I think is a bigger need, I'd say right field. That's what I would say. That is a position where you need a hitter. That is a position where you need somebody that is going to help that lineup. So that's where I would go with this before I look in the second base direction. I have no clue what Casey Schmitt's going to be next season, but I do think he's done enough to at least see, and they can always pivot. Maybe there's a midseason trade. If they think that's the missing piece, if, I don't know, they don't pay for anybody in right field or second base, or let's say they do the Harrison Bader deal, but the second base conversation is a bad one and nobody's figuring it out, then at that point you see who's interested in making a trade and making a move, and then you wheel and deal. But I don't think you necessarily need to wheel and deal right now or sign a big name free agent. Let's see what Casey Schmitt can do. And some of these other guys that you do have in the lineup, they should be able to at least power you through. Because that's the one thing I think Casey Schmitt can put the bat on the ball. Right? He definitely can put the bat on the ball, and he's got a good bit of pop in there. So you give him the nod, you say, all right, it's your chance. Hopefully the ghost of Tyler Fitzgerald doesn't affect him too to start the season. We don't need another streak like we have in left field to start at second base, starting different second basemen, but he gets off to a hot start, and we see what happens from there. So I don't have a problem with the Giants standing pat at second base, assuming they do so. Maybe they run into something or see something that they do like, but I don't think it's not the highest on my priority list for the Giants to make a move at second base. I'm willing to see the combination of the guys that they do have that have been around for a little bit. Let's see if one of them can figure it out, or maybe it's a platoon situation, Casey Schmitt, Christian Koss, and then, I can't quit Tyler Fitzgerald. So I don't have a problem with that. We'll see if the Giants stay true to that, or if there's somebody out there that they just might be interested in. One more segment with you. As we discussed, the Giants jump up a ton of spots, okay? A ton of spots. I believe it was 11 to go from 15th to 4th, thanks to Randy Wynn. Now let's discuss just a very, very surface level look at the 2026 MLB Draft and some of the prospects that should be available. One more, don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Giants with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonsfgiants.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. If you're a true diehard Giants fan, the Everydayer All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. Head to lockedonsfgiants.supercast.com to join the Everydayer Club and unlock all access. You can also find the link in the show notes. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994 and with 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive, but let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why Game Time, that app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats become open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Prices include fees up front, which I love. No last-second surprises at checkout. Alerts from teams and matches make it easy to grab tickets at the moment they drop instead of missing out. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, download Game Time today. So as it broke yesterday, the Giants are going to pick fourth in the 2026 MLB Draft, and that's great news. You know, there's a big difference in every slot you move up, from the 15th pick to the 14th pick to the 13th pick, so on and so forth. Then you get to the top five, and the percentage when it comes to the guys that end up having legit careers in the league, and this happens really in all sports, it just goes up so much. So shout out Randy Wynn. Somebody on the YouTube comments yesterday was taken aback when I called Randy Wynn a legend. They said, I don't know, no disrespect or something like that, Randy Wynn isn't a legend. Well, he is now, because they jumped up 11 spots. All right, that was just something that we were, kind of having some fun with in the moment when the news broke. So if you don't think Randy Wynn is a Giant legend, that is your prerogative. It was more so tongue-in-cheek because Randy Wynn had just done something outstanding for the Giants. But hey, we can talk about Giants legends a different day. Hopefully they're about to draft the next Giants legend. And if they're going to do it, it's going to be from a pretty good group, all right? This is from the MLB Pipeline, and they say mock draft, Jim Callis projects each team's first pick. So they have different guys, and I'm going to say different names just because, this is just Jim Callis's thought process. And you have Grady Emerson going number 2, shortstop out of high school. You got Justin LeBron. A lot of people were having fun with Justin LeBron going number 3 out of Alabama. I've watched him a little bit, and he's a stud. Drew Burress is who Jim Callis has the Giants taken, Georgia Tech outfielder. I saw some highlights from him yesterday. Jacob Lombard, another shortstop out of high school. And you have Rosh Kalowski, UCLA, being taken. Roche with the number 1 pick to the White Sox, UCLA. So I don't think he's going to end up dropping, but you never know. So that's another shortstop. So 3 shortstops Jim Callis has to kick this whole thing off. And the Giants will be taking the first outfielder. And I do wonder if Jim Callis is thinking that the Giants would go in this direction due to their connection with college players because of course, Tony Vitello. So here is the write-up on Drew Burress. Burress broke into college baseball with 9 homers in his first 8 college games and hasn't stopped slugging while showing he's a center fielder with at least solid tools across the board. All right. And he's saying it like, at the very least, he has solid tools. They might become more than that. So you can go check that out on MLB.com. It's great stuff. Some of the guys just around them, just in case they slip or the Giants just go in a different direction. If LeBron can improve his, I almost said approach. If LeBron can improve his approach, he could develop into a shortstop with 5 legitimate plus tools. That's number 3. Going to the Twins, number 5, Jacob Lombard, the son of former big leaguer George Lombard and brother of top Yankees prospect George Lombard Jr., who's number 25 right now. He has less hitting ability, but maybe more power and speed than Emerson, who was also brought up. It is interesting that the Giants would go in the outfield direction. I'm not going to say why they might be doing that or why it might look like the Giants have a need there. But yeah, to see all these shortstops riddled throughout the top 10. And I know a lot of times that's the case. The draft is filled with signing shortstops, center fielders, pitchers, and then you figure it out, catchers, of course, and then some power guys, and you figure it out from there. So that's the direction they see the Giants going in. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And it gives you a reason to pay more attention. You know, I'm always going to try to convince you to watch more college baseball. It gives you a reason to pay attention. I don't know who's got the ACC network or ACC plus or whatever the heck they're offering these days, but to catch some Georgia Tech baseball, to catch some SEC network and Justin LeBron, because he's right around there. So yeah, it makes it even more exciting to watch some of these dudes do their thing when you know that the Giants could easily take them. Now, of course, that just starts their timeline. But I will say, you know, with the draft being shortened, a lot of these guys are getting to the bigs sooner than they used to, kind of back in the day when there were 40 rounds and there were more teams in the minors and things like that. So you never know how long it may or may not take. So great stuff from Randy Wynn. And I wanted to give you more of a breakdown on where the Giants could go. Who knows if they actually go in that direction? It's still early. If Burris has a down season, maybe the Giants go in a different direction. But I do think it would be nice. I mean, when we look at, and I still believe I still have it up, when we look at some of the outfielders that are on the way for the Giants, and I know I've talked about them at length, but Bo Davis and Dakota Jordan, if you remember the write-ups on them, neither of them are more so pure center fielders. They're corner guys that maybe could play center. So you're really looking for that cornerstone piece. And I think Jim Callis is saying that the Giants have an opportunity to get it at the top of the draft. So this might be the time to do it, because it feels like it's been a while since the Giants have had that. I know there's Jung Hoo Lee, but just kind of a young stud coming up that grows with the team and is just the purest of pure center fielders. And, you know, that those timelines probably don't line up anyway. Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Thank you for watching Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at @_Styles Files, Styles with an I. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Giants so you get all the latest episodes. Did Locked On Giants make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our National Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On MLB. Thank you for checking in with me. As always, we got another fun show for you planned tomorrow on Thursday. We will talk to you. Until then, peace.